representative is unable to join us to make the time commitment. Very supportive of our work, but we were wondering if there would be another real estate agent anybody else would recommend. So we're going to start out with just introductions, who you are and where you work. So I'm Helen Guzzo. I've been with the city of Battle Creek for about a year and a half now, managing community development. This process is for our community engagement process for the consolidated plan 2025 to 2029. And then Darcy Schmidt and I are working together hand in really closely so that when the consolidated plan process gets over, the steering committee will seamlessly transition to working with the housing component of the update for the master plan. Darcy, you want to take it from here?
I'm sorry, I was trying to respond to Benito. Can you repeat that?
We're going to do introductions. So I wanted you to introduce
Okay.
yourself.
Okay. Darcy Schmidt, I'm the planning and zoning manager for the city of Battle Creek, and we will be working on our housing master plan this year. So we are happy to have you all on board.
Sonia, you want to go next?
Sure. I'm Sonia Dean. I'm the Deputy Director for the Local Initiative Support Corporation office in Kalamazoo, but we're doing quite a bit of work in Battle Creek these days as well. We're a nonprofit CDFI lender and community development, economic development investor. I will pass it to John Hughes.
Awesome. John Hughes. I work with Battle Creek Unlimited, an array of things, all kinds of projects, but I do focus on community development and housing related things. I will pass it to James Marino.
Hi there, Jim Marino, Chair NPC1, Post Franklin Neighborhoods, and been at this for over 30 years.
Jim, I think you've actually been chair of NPC1 for almost 40 years.
Well, Helen, I was trying to hide that, but thanks.
So you want to send it to Krista?
Absolutely. Krista, please.
Hi, I am Krista Trout Edwards, and I am the director at the Calhoun County Land Bank Authority. And I will send it over to Alana.
Hello, my name is Alana White. I'm here representing the Planning Commission. I also serve as the chair of our Tax Increment Financing Authority, our Local Development Finance Authority, as well as our Brownfields Redevelopment Authority. I'm sure I'm probably missing a few other things. And I work for the W.K. Kellogg Foundation. I'm going to send it to Pastor Dr. French.
Hi, I'm Monique French, the pastor and director at Washington Heights United Methodist Church and Community. Also serve as the chair of Neighborhood Planning Council 2 and the Calhoun County Commissioner for District 2. And I will pass it to Bunika.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Bunika Herring. I am the chair of MPC4 and one of the co-founders of Herring Consulting. And I'm happy to be here. And I will pass it to Elizabeth.
Elizabeth from...
Or maybe she's still loading.
Yeah.
I will pass it to Jamie.
Hi all, my name is Jamie Schreiner. I'm a program officer at the W.K. Kellogg Foundation, focusing in on community economic development. I've been there for almost 6 years and have been doing quite a bit of work with many of the faces here, especially most recently in housing. And I will pass it to Mary.
Hello, everyone. This is Mary Mullett from the Battle Creek Community Foundation. I am just getting back in my office, so my screen will be up here in a moment, but I'm by phone for the second. The Battle Creek Community Foundation has been talking a lot about the need around housing and trying to partner in every which way we can and stay engaged. So I'm happy to be here. I will pass it to, let's see. Oh, who has not gone? Is Elizabeth, is your sound up? I'm going to go with you if you can hear me.
Yes, I am. Thank you so much. I don't know what button I pressed and it kicked me out. Elizabeth Garcia, she, her, hers. I am the co-executive director with the Battle Creek Coalition for Truth, Racial Healing, and Transformation. And we've been partnering with many people on this call around housing equity. And then I have no clue who is next. I'm so sorry. I'm going to pass it back to Helen.
Vanessa Hernandez is next.
I'll take it. Hi, everyone. Vanessa Hernandez with City of Battle Creek. I oversee CDBG program. I also I am a liaison for the Neighborhood Planning Council, and I'm also an interpreter for the City of Battle Creek. And I apologize if my camera goes on and off. There's a lot of traffic around me.
And then the other person on the call is Eric McClure, who is our support from the communications that is hosting the Zoom for us. So I think we have everybody has introduced themselves.
Whitney Wardell.
Whitney Wardell just joined, sorry.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Whitney Wardell. I'm the president and CEO of Neighborhoods Inc. of Battle Creek, which is a local nonprofit housing organization. Very nice to see everyone here today, and I look forward to this conversation and the work that we are all planning to do around housing.
Terrific. Thank you, everyone, for joining. I know they weren't sent out. We kept minutes of our last meeting from December 4th, 2024. Did anyone get a chance to read them? Was there anything missed? Do we accept them? Seeing no comment, we're going to accept our minutes from December 4th, 2024. I also included in the packet a review of the discussion on December 12th. So our first meeting on December 4th, we reviewed the needs assessment and the presentation. Sonia provided the housing action plan that BCU, the city, and WK Kellogg Foundation funded, starting with the need for all types of housing. And then I went into real specifics of how the neighborhood planning how community development block grant dollars are spent and how we are planning to spend the rest of our home dollars. We had a robust conversation. We had about, the weather wasn't good. We had about 18 people participate in the morning session, and we had about 6 participate in the afternoon and the evening session. Lots of discussion about how we could create incentives to make affordable housing. So I'm glad that Alana is here because there's a lot of discussion about how to use tax increment financing for scattered site development. Talia actually asked the most questions about that, and there was a lot of affirmation that the city prioritizing its minor home repair program was supported by the community. So lots of research. One of our discussion questions is, how do we as a steering committee prioritize the priorities for community development for the consolidated plan? But we are going to each neighborhood planning councils and presenting our survey. One of the things we want to talk about is our survey. We've been promoting it, and it does not have as much participation as we've had in the past. Last year we had 5 years ago, we had 950 people participate, and 10 years ago, we had over 1,000 participate. To date, it's been on the website, and it's been published a few times with social media. We had about 300 people participate, 273 in English and 14 in Spanish. And the Burma Center has translated the survey into the 4 dialects of Burmese, and they're going to be promoting it to Burmese residents in the next 2 weeks. So it was in the December water bill. It's been most neighborhood planning councils. We paid for it to be in the Shopper News. Darcy and I were on the Richard Pyatt Community Matters show in December, and on Monday we recorded an episode of Be Seen on the Air with Sherry Sherbin. Is there anything else we need to do to get that survey out and in front of the public in the next 2 weeks? Mary.
Sorry, I had to get to my mute button. If you want to kick it my way, Helen, one more time, we can share it on our social as well, just to help out. It's maybe a good way to connect with more that might not be on the social for the city.
I would ask everybody, we can get the city to promote it one more time and we can forward it along. We would appreciate all your support getting participation in that survey. Elizabeth, your hand's up.
Yeah, we have an event next week, and I was wondering if it would be beneficial to have some copies there for people to be able to complete.
Yeah, I'm coming to the Day of Racial Healing, and I will bring 100 copies of the English version, and there's a QR code on that, so they can take a picture of the QR code and do it online, or they can actually do it in paper, and then we will. So that's a great idea. I'll bring 100 copies and make sure that happens. Thank you.
Sounds good. You're welcome.
Pastor French?
We are also having an event Monday, and we have the prayer breakfast on Saturday. So I don't know if you can send an email with some information, and we can get some of that printed off and share that information as well.
Terrific. So the prayer breakfast is on Saturday or Monday?
No, the prayer breakfast is on Saturday, and then we have the Dreamers Ball on Monday.
And how many copies do you think you need for each event?
I don't know if you can get, I guess, 100 for each event.
And I'm not going to be attending those events, but if I could drop
You could
them
drop
off.
them off. Yep, if you could drop them off at Washington Heights, well, I'll take care of it for you.
We would greatly appreciate that. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Wonderful ideas. Thank you for raising the availability of our survey. There any other ideas? We appreciate that.
I'm sure if you drop some off to KCC, to the Student Life Center, that they would be able to pass them out and circulate them as well.
So is that Jill Anderson, or who would I contact about that?
Actually, I can take them up there and make sure that they're circulated.
Okay, I'll give you 100 copies also. Thank you. Thank you for that.
Thank you.
So Darcy, do you want to talk about the master plan, the request for proposals?
Yes, we have a request for proposal due to come into the city on January 22nd. I will be reaching out to a couple of you here to be on the review team for that document. We hope to get things turned around quick enough where we can actually start the public outreach process in May. So as we get closer to that, we will be bringing a lot of information and a lot of requests for input from this team before we get to that point. We'll have the consultant probably meet in this forum and get input from all of you for their public input process. So we appreciate all of you participating in this process.
So I'm going to share my screen. So this is what we've gotten a lot of comments. We're going to neighborhood planning councils, and Like yesterday, Bonica Herring chaired MPC4, and we talked a lot about neighborhood concerns for code compliance, and we also talked about grocery stores, that Battle Creek is not as competitive with the walkability scores for low housing tax credit because we don't have access to fresh fruits and vegetables and within walkable distance of our low-income neighborhoods. And so that's those statements like that. We're collecting all those statements, and how we did it in 2015 to 29 is we took all those statements and we themed them. So a group of about 6 or 7 from the public and the city staff, we took each statement and we themed them, and we came up with 4 kind of broad categories, which were these priorities: encourage vibrant neighborhoods, promote vibrancy downtown, increase resident and community engagement, and support efforts to expand employment, workforce development, and transportation. I was not as directly involved. I was on the steering committee for the priorities for the 20 to 24. They changed significantly, furthering fair housing, restore vitality of low-income neighborhoods, ensure that housing is safe, affordable, and accessible, activate that underutilized land, and alleviate poverty. A pretty broad goal. So I have all these statements, and I've got, before April, I have to come up with the city's priorities for the consolidated plan for how we spend CDBG and home dollars, and how to use our energy as a steering committee is kind of my discussion question. Is how can we together decide on the consolidated plan priorities, taking the public input that we've gotten through our community conversation on December 12th, our neighborhood planning council consultation sessions. Many of you have been contacted by Vanessa Hernandez. We appreciate you scheduling time in your calendar to spend an hour with us, Darcy, I, and Vanessa, just talking about what's working in Battle Creek, what isn't working. And we're going to summarize all of that. We've had 2 public consultations, and we're going to be doing probably 28 more in the next 2 months. In February, we're going to share the survey results. And then in March, we're going to have to prioritize all these statements. And is it theming? Do we get together, or do we take a small committee and we theme, and then we talk about those priorities afterwards? They've got to be broad priorities, so that we have some flexibility in how we spend dollars. Just because you're all involved in housing, the city is doing 2 substantial amendments next Tuesday, on January 21st. There's a public hearing at the city commission meeting. We have a failed project that we funded in 2000 at 614 Northeast Capitol. It's a vacant building. It used to be a doctor's office. There were 2 apartments. There's always been 2 apartments on the top floor, and then the bottom floor was doctor's offices, a clinic. I think it was an advertising company. And then the owner contracted with us to provide 5 units of affordable housing. They gutted it. They spent $128,000. Pardon? They spent $120,000 of federal dollars renovating it, but then they didn't progress forward. So the city was pretty creative, and we took opioid settlement dollars and we paid HUD back. And when we paid HUD back, we paid ourselves back because we still can use those dollars. So $117,000 is going to be reallocated to, and then we're going to take what we were going to do. We were going to start a public services program with $180,000 because we can use up to 15% of community development dollars for public services. So we're going to do about $300,000 to create either 5 or 6 units of recovery housing. So we're going to be doing an RFP to choose a provider of recovery housing. We have talked to a couple in the community, and they are interested in taking ownership and operating this house as recovery housing. So that is a substantial amendment that's before the city commission on Tuesday. And we also allocated 200,000 for bus stops. And then transit had state labor shortages and they just didn't prioritize spending the dollars. And now the dollars are 2 years old. And our minor home repair program has a long wait list. We have 50 people that we're working through that wait list. So we're reallocating from transit bus stops, accessible bus stops, to the minor home repair. So those are two substantial amendments to the community development block grant program that we have a public hearing and the city commission will be approving those, the moving of those funds on Tuesday. We can't spend any dollars without city commission approval, and our work to design these consolidated plan priorities guide the spending of community development dollars for the city for the next 5 years. And the consolidated plan and the annual action plan that's part of it will go to the city commission in April to be approved for the submission in May. So I have experts here in community process. What's the process that you would recommend for deciding on our consolidated plan priorities and taking all the public comments that we're gathering through the survey, through our public hearings, through our outreach to neighborhood planning councils? Chris Lucia used the Alavance system and kind of ranked things previously. That seems like a level of complication. So deciding on our priorities and what's the best way to use your time is just a question I wanted to get some feedback from.
I guess I was thinking that, sorry, Jim.
No,
You
go
can go
ahead,
ahead.
Kristen.
Well, I was just thinking that the last time I did this, I did it with Chris and we participated in that Alavance ranking system. So that's kind of blocking my thought process right now because that was an interesting process to go through. And I'm wondering what kind of data would be provided to us. Like, what are we going to be looking at that you're going to want us to like discern out of? Like with when we did it last time with Chris, a lot of us gathered and like we were on different, I think, committees or different portions of the consolidated plan. So we were looking at, areas that related to the work that we do, our organization does. And we were really working through those pieces. I think because I think we were probably on different pieces being in different fields at the time. Um, so is that what you're imagining, or you're imagining like this?
Yeah, do we use Alavance again, or do we use where a small group, city staff, gathers all the activities and kind of themes them, and then we take the themes and we create the priorities from those themed comments?
The theme idea you're talking about, Helen, sounds more organic. And I think with the amount of responses we've got so far and with the surveys, that might be a little bit more realistic. I think the tool you were talking about the last time probably fit on the amount of data that it was given. And this time we're data short, really. That's my thought.
We won't be data short by March. We are right now, but Battle Creek will come through with the surveys. I think we have a plan. So with Alavance, we came up with criteria and then we decided how to weigh them. Where's the discussion guide?
If I remember the Alavance portion too, we were looking at projects that were scoring high. And I think it was maybe to try to take some of well, Jim referred to it as organic, but I think maybe to take some of the like personality out of it. I don't know.
Right. So
you're looking for basically something that has the subjectivity removed from it, and it's more quantitative.
That is an excellent way to put. I think that's what Chris was looking for when he did it.
Yes.
Not to speak for him.
Sometimes the subjectivity, in my mind, has to play a little bit into it because, after all, we're talking about neighborhoods. I mean, yes, it's a larger plan for the city as a whole, but the neighborhoods that this really touches from HUD's perspective, I think we lose a lot of that to the idea of desensitizing the data. And realistically, what we're seeing here, the trends the last 15 years, is some areas have benefited really well from the work being done through the consolidated plan, and some are kind of stuck in time. They really haven't advanced. And that's where I'm coming up with the organic approach, because I think we need to get it back to the basics of the neighborhoods themselves and really kind of get those voices and use that as our launch point and try to get that developed. Because if you look at the number 6, 2024 priority, I mean, number 6 really, restore the vitality to low-income neighborhoods. I mean, if you look at the city as a whole, the corridors that come into the main city itself is surrounded by a lot of these very low-income neighborhoods that are not exactly bouncing back as good as they could be, if you understand.
Right. So neighborhood vitality, it had 4 criteria under it. 25% create a sense of place. 12% provide access to affordable recreation. 41% improve property conditions in low and moderate income neighborhoods, and 22% develop intersections of business districts and neighborhoods. The consolidated plan, it's $1.2 million a year, community-wide planning process, because it's that's what the beauty of combining with planning is that this whole effort feeds into a larger planning effort that the city, manages. And so I like that we're small and big working together. So fair housing is educate the public on fair housing laws, address complaints about discrimination, investigate impediments to fair housing. Those were the 3 underneath fair housing. And appropriate use and activation of land, activate underutilized land. That included preserve and enhance parklands and natural resources for the public, improve connectivity between neighborhoods and downtown, assemble properties for large-scale development, and promote higher densities and a wider range of land uses around the downtown and major corridors. So I can send out the strategic priorities that we used for the 2024 priorities. But I'm just trying to decide what the process is that the steering committee can use for making sense of all the community process that we have.
So is someone going through all of the surveys? You have about 300 and change, and you're hoping for 1,000 or more.
Yep.
Is somebody actually going through and creating like themes or trends of information that are coming out of those surveys?
Yes.
Like, I don't remember how long the survey is, but
it's 4 pages. Some of it's kind of a list of what would you prioritize most. And the last 2 times we've created a document that's called the 2020 Public Engagement Report. And we are hiring a new fellow through CEDM who will be starting the end of the month. And their first assignment is going to be to take the data and create a report that we can all react to at our February meeting. So we will have some data of who responded and what the different priorities are based on our neighborhood planning councils, if they had different priorities. And we added some, like, what type of housing do you live in? What are your housing needs? We added some housing needs to build off the RC and the master plan. So we'll have a little bit more than what we've had in the past, but we will have some sort of document that looks at the respondents' age and demographics, so we know who had higher priorities for healthcare or street improvements, or it's
Is there
pretty.
any kind of like a heat map across the community for where responses are also coming from, like address level geo data? Okay.
Yes.
And then a last question is, do you have any data that looks back at the last 5 years of the consolidated plan recommendations and what progress was made based on what the goals were associated with those? I heard you kind of reading off what sounded like the priority goals.
Yes.
And to know whether what was outlined in the prior plan has been accomplished, is still in process, didn't get done, which may help inform whether those get pulled forward in some way or are considered to have been accomplished or were never going to be accomplished in the first, all of these things are possible, right? So that you're thinking through, okay, this is what all the data that the community is telling us are the priorities. This is what we have accomplished previously and whether it needs to, proceed forward, and how that might inform this group. If you're asking this group to, in essence, help you drill down into what those 4 to 6 priorities are going to be.
We do a caper every year, and I do have a caper, and I can, before a February meeting, I can put our accomplishments under each of our goals I can do that. Yep. I think that's a great idea.
One of the things, Sonia, that we can do with the way the data is collected and assimilated is we can take that data and we can provide you a map with where, and the numbers and pie charts, everything pretty quickly. And so any type of information that any of you can think of that, for instance, what you said, Sonia, anything that would help you better understand, we can make that happen pretty easily. That's the really great way of how the information is entered into the system. And between our fellow and the team that we have here, we can pretty much pull that information together in a real graphic way for that process. So if you think of anything, email us, shoot us, let us know your thoughts, and we'll just collect it and start pulling all that information as soon as the surveys are collected.
So I just wanted to share our screen. This is a map that we've done every year of where the home projects and we did one home project in 23, but this is our 4 years of experience with the minor home repair. And then this is where they happened. They're citywide because it's an income eligible program. Often in our core neighborhoods, we do a lot of roof and home, front steps, furnaces, water heaters, and we've been able to help this many folks. And we will probably do about 40 projects in 2024, which will be the last of our 5 years. And then about 22% of community development block grant dollars have gone to support code compliance in our core neighborhoods. And so we did almost 8,000 enforcements in our core neighborhoods from July 1st, 2023 to June 30th, 2024. And then we presented this at our neighborhood planning councils where those enforcements have happened. They're in each of our neighborhood planning councils in each of our 5 low and moderate income neighborhoods. So we could do that for the whole 5-year period pretty easily. And we can work on that between now and when we meet again. So what we're going to be talking about in February is the survey results from the survey. And then in March, it'll be the priorities. And then the consolidated plan, we have to publish it like April 6th to meet the 30 days of public comment. So it's due to HUD May 15th. And we're going to be deciding on which commission meetings. We're going to have a public needs discussion at a city commission meeting. And then we're going to have a public hearing actually on the consolidated plan after it's published. So we'll have one consolidated plan public hearing at the city commission on April 15th, which kind of will kick off it being due on May 15th. And then we were deciding it probably would be the March 4th. The March 4th city commission meeting would be a public hearing on needs, on community and housing needs. So we would have people come talk about needs to the city commission. So the city commission would be part of our community engagement process. So that that's what I had. What do you have, Darcy? Is there any other information that we need to share?
No, I think getting what you would need to help evaluate the priorities for the consolidated plans is probably really important to get here. As far as the timing of the different processes that we are working on.
And by the time the consolidated plan is done, we'll have a consultant hired and we'll be working forward with the master plan and the housing update to the master plan. And if someone, if you know a real estate agent who's got kind of a systemic thinker that would want to participate, we're looking for a real estate agent to join our steering committee. And otherwise, I think we'll give you 20 minutes back of your time. I think we might, last time we ran over a little bit, and I think in February we might run over a little bit more than an hour. And then maybe it's Alana, Darcy, like we would like to talk about using tax increment finance authority to help reduce the costs of new construction. We are meeting, the city's meeting with the man who just bought Motor Shop, has built factory built housing. And is using factory built housing a way to reduce the infill housing costs. Just so that HUD is very broad and they ask what public policies is the jurisdiction adopting to reduce the barriers to developing affordable housing. So I have to write a narrative on that, and the tools, those are the tools: changing our planning and zoning, adopting forms of our architectural plans that have already been approved that could just be used kind of by right by builders. How could TIF financing be used to lower the capital costs for development? Those are kind of broader systemic tools that are above and beyond the consolidated plan, but we have to reference them, and it's an opportunity to put it all together and think systemically about how can we create more of that infill housing that we know we need. It came up 5 years ago, and it's definitely a need now.
Helen?
Yes.
Question. In that thinking process you just covered, does that also include the mid-level housing? I read in the package at the last discussion that the mid-level housing hasn't really been broached, but it's something that's really desperately needed. Is that part of that thinking process as well?
It is. Like the consolidated plan is lower moderate income needs, which we definitely have a lot of, but the market rate and even upper income housing, we have people who are working here but not living here because we don't have the choice of the housing, and it harms our economic development because there's not new housing development. And that's what the housing action plan showed, is that there are all along the income spectrum, we have a lack of housing development. So a TIF might not be for low income housing. It might be for moderate and middle. It might be the missing middle. We have a number of people that at the community conversation talked about how they're aging, but selling their house isn't enough to buy them for them to buy a new house, or, you know, that there's not cottages on the market or smaller houses on the market for them to move to from their large homes they've raised their families in. We just, the choices for the moderate middle income are just not available. And so maybe they'll move to Jackson or Chelsea or Portage, or instead of staying here where they've lived their lives and want to stay, because we don't have, there's an affordability issue and there's just not the choices being offered. And that did, we heard that a couple of times in a different, we heard that at NPC 5. We went to NPC 5 and a woman was saying, I would like to sell my home, but I can't find what I would need to move into. So that, and then we heard that at the community conversation that you were part of, Jim, on December 12th.
And Jim, also, you know, to build on that, that's important for the consolidated plan, but that's also important information to get now going forward to the master plan portion of the update. So we will provide all of this information to the consultant, and in addition to other things, all the input we're getting here to the consultant so they can hit the ground running. And then we'll take that information and we'll evolve. What does that housing look like? Where could it be placed? Where, you know, once we get the data on what type of housing are we looking for? What type of housing are we missing? So that is why we're trying to do this together, because it is all connected.
Thank you.
So our next meeting is February 2nd by Zoom. February 13th, Thursday, February 13th at 2 p.m. And we will provide probably on Monday or Tuesday, probably Monday of that week, some summary from the survey. And we will be getting out copies to Truth, Racial Healing and Reconciliation, and Pastor French, so that we can get more results to look at. So, thank you, everybody. Have a great rest of your afternoon.
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.